You feel it, don't you? The terrifying acceleration. The sense that the days are collapsing into hours and the years are dissolving like sugar in hot water. You look at the calendar and wonder where the last decade went. This sensation, this tightening in your chest when you think about the future, is not just aging, it is a symptom. You are suffering from Chronos sickness, the biological rejection of a linear lie. Now imagine for a moment. Close your eyes and feel the pulse in your wrist. That steady rhythm is not counting up your life. It is counting down your remaining time in the matrix of decay. Society calls this living, but Itzhak Bentov knew better. He called it a flatline existence. You are running on a horizontal treadmill, sprinting toward a horizon that never gets closer, while the scenery blurs into a gray smear of forgotten memories. Why does time seem to speed up as you get older? The scientists tell you it's a matter of perception, that 1 year represents a smaller fraction of your life. They are lying. The truth is far more disturbing. You are experiencing a frequency mismatch. Your consciousness is trying to expand into a higher vibration, the vertical axis, but your physical reality is locked into the horizontal axis of survival and repetition. Notice your breath right now. Is it shallow? Are you already waiting for the next sentence, the next dopamine hit? That restlessness is the skip reflex. It is an archonic interference pattern designed to push you out of the present moment. The system does not want you here, in the now. It wants you in the past, regretting, or in the future, worrying. Because if you truly stopped, if you truly inhabited this exact second, the walls of the prison would dissolve. The ancient Greeks distinguished between chronos, sequential, eating time, and kairos, the opportune vertical moment where time stands still. You have been trained to worship Chronos. You sacrifice your biology to the clock. You trade your infinite potential for a salary paid in hours. But what if I told you that you don't have to die to leave this timeline? What if the exit door isn't at the end of your life, but hidden in the gap between your heartbeats? To understand how to escape time, we must first shatter your belief in solidity. You believe you are a solid physical object, sitting in a solid chair, existing continuously from 1 second to the next. This is the optical illusion of the matrix. Itzhak Bentov, in his Forbidden Mechanics, proved that you are not an object at all. You are a process. You are a rapidly oscillating energy field, a wild pendulum. Visualize a simple grandfather clock pendulum swinging left and right. Watch it carefully. At the very bottom of the swing, it is moving fastest. It is full of kinetic energy. This represents your physical life, your actions, your busyness in the material world. But what happens at the very end of the swing, just before it turns back? For a split second, a fraction of a nanosecond, the pendulum actually stops. Velocity becomes zero. And in the laws of physics, when velocity hits zero, something miraculous happens to momentum. It becomes infinite. Bentov discovered that at this precise still point, the pendulum is no longer bound by space or time. It spreads out. It becomes omnipresent. Hold your breath at the top of your inhale for just a moment. Feel that suspension? That is the biological equivalent of the pendulum's turn. Now, here is the terrifying truth about your brain. You are a biological oscillator. Your consciousness does not stream continuously like a river. It flashes like a strobe light. Bentov calculated that the human sensory system updates reality approximately 14 times a second. You blink on and off. You exist, and then you disappear. You exist, and then you disappear. Where do you go during the off phase? When you disappear, you enter the void. You expand into the zero-point field, the infinite black ocean of potential where time does not exist. But your brain is wired to edit this out. It acts like a movie projector. A movie is just a series of still photos separated by black darkness. Your brain stitches the photos together to create the illusion of motion, but it ignores the darkness. Look at your hand. Really look at it. It seems solid, but if you could slow down your perception, you would see it flickering in and out of existence millions of times per minute. The Matrix keeps you trapped by forcing you to focus only on the pictures, the material world, the drama, the noise. It terrifies you of the black frames, the silence, the stillness, the void. Why? Because in the pictures, you are a limited human with a name and an expiration date. But in the black frames, you are God. You are infinite consciousness. The secret of vertical time is learning how to extend your stay in those black frames. While everyone else is rushing to the next picture, the master slips into the darkness between them. That is where the escape hatch is located. Now we arrive at the geometry of your liberation. Most of humanity is trapped on what Bentov called horizontal time. This is the timeline of the ego. It moves from birth to death, from cause to effect. It is a flat line of decay. On this axis, entropy rules. Things break, bodies age, and memories fade. To live horizontally is to slowly die. But the universe is not a line, it is a hologram. Visualize a vinyl record player. The tone arm moves slowly across the record toward the center. That is horizontal time, the unavoidable march of your physical lifespan. But look closer at the needle, the stylus. It doesn't just ride the surface, it vibrates furiously up and down and side to side within the groove. This vibration is the music. This vertical motion is vertical time. Horizontal time is quantity. Vertical time is quality. Horizontal time measures how long you exist. Vertical time measures how deeply you exist. When you enter a state of high creative flow, deep meditation, or sudden shock, what happens? The clock on the wall keeps ticking, but your internal experience expands. A minute can feel like an hour. That is not a trick of the mind. That is your consciousness pivoting 90 degrees out of the linear timeline and traveling up the vertical axis. Close your eyes and recall a moment of intense pain or intense love. Notice how that memory has no date attached to it? It feels fresh, immediate, like it is happening right now. That is because it was encoded vertically. The vertical axis connects all now moments together. In vertical time, you are not separated from your past or future self by years. You are only separated by frequency. Here is the forbidden physics. If you can increase the velocity of your consciousness, your internal vibration, you can travel so far up the vertical axis that you effectively detach from the horizontal drag. You stop aging in the metaphysical sense because you are no longer grinding against the friction of linear time. You are hovering above it. Feel the weight of your body in the chair. That weight is gravity pulling you down into the horizontal plane. But your awareness? It has no weight. Bentov taught that if you can access the still point, that gap between thoughts, you can slide up this vertical shaft. You can process infinite information without spending a single second of physical time.
This is why the mystics and the mad geniuses seem to live 1,000 lifetimes in one. They are not living longer, they are living taller. They have learned to step off the treadmill and climb the ladder. But be warned, the Matrix is jealous of its prisoners. It has built a biological mechanism to keep your needle pressed hard against the flat, scratching surface of the mundane. It's called the memory trap.
You are not fighting time. You are fighting your own biology. To understand why you are trapped in the horizontal decay, you must look at the gray matter inside your skull. We are taught that the brain is a magnificent computer designed to perceive reality. This is false. The brain is a reducing valve. It is a biological sensor designed to block 99% of reality out. If your brain allowed you to perceive the full spectrum of vertical time, the infinite past, present, and future occurring simultaneously, your physical body would incinerate from the sheer voltage of the experience. So, the brain installs a safety mechanism, a filter. It chops the infinite now into manageable linear slices. It creates the illusion of before and after. Rub your forehead right between your eyes. Feel the bone. Behind that bone sits the prefrontal cortex, the architect of your prison. This is the part of the brain that projects simulations of the future, anxiety, and replays loops of the past, regret. It is the guardian of horizontal time. Here is the mechanism. Remember the blink? The 14 times a second you disappear into the void? Your brain is terrified of those gaps. It fears the silence. So it uses memory as a mortar. It takes a snapshot of the past millisecond and pastes it over the current gap to create a smooth, continuous movie. You are never actually seeing the raw present. You are seeing a delayed broadcast stitched together by memory. Listen to the voice in your head right now. Is it narrating? Is it judging? That voice is the glue. As long as you are thinking about your life, you remain trapped on the horizontal axis. The matrix feeds on this linear friction. Think about it. When are you most easily controlled? When you are afraid of the future, generating revenue for insurance, pharmaceuticals, security, or ashamed of the past, generating revenue for therapy, distractions, consumption. The system cannot harvest energy from a human standing in vertical time. In the vertical now, you have no needs, no fear, and no self to manipulate. Therefore, the matrix bombards you with time-binding signals, notifications, deadlines, 24-hour news cycles, nostalgia bait. These are not just distractions, they are magnetic anchors. They are designed to keep your consciousness heavy, dragging it back down to the flat line every time you try to ascend. The ultimate trap is your identity. Your personality is just a bundle of memories, a collection of horizontal time coordinates. To enter the vertical, you must be willing to put down the heavy suitcase of who you think you are. You must be willing to be nobody, nowhere, for a singular, infinite moment. And your ego would rather die than do that.
Theory is nothing but intellectual entertainment until it is applied. If you want to exit the horizontal axis, you must learn to hack the pendulum of your own consciousness. You cannot stop the world, but you can stop your participation in its momentum. We will not use complex meditation that requires a cave in the Himalayas. We will use the physics of the micropause. Protocol 1. The stop injection. This technique is adapted from the Gurdjieff movements, aligned with Bentov's pendulum mechanics. The goal is to catch the pendulum at the exact moment of zero velocity. Try this immediately. Stand up or sit up straight. Move your hand to reach for a cup or scratch your nose, and then freeze. Do not complete the action. Do not relax the muscle. Hold the exact posture of the interruption. When you freeze the body unexpectedly, the brain's prediction engine, the mechanism that generates future time, glitches. It creates a gap. In that silence, you are no longer becoming horizontal. You are just being vertical. Do you feel that sudden rush of energy? That vibrating silence in your limbs? That is the kinetic energy of your doing being converted into the potential energy of your being. Practice this 3 times a day. Freeze for 60 seconds. Watch the thoughts scream to move, to finish, to tick the box. Watch them and do nothing. You are reclaiming your energy from the timeline. Protocol 2. The breath pivot. Your breath is the biological pendulum. Most people breathe in a circle. Inhale rolls into exhale. To access vertical time, you must sharpen the turn. Inhale slowly for 4 seconds. Now hold. Not a tense hold, but a suspension. This is the still point. This is the top of the pendulum swing. In this pause, you do not exist in linear time. You are hovering in the 0 point. Exhale for 4 seconds. Hold empty. This is the bottom of the swing. Bentov taught that these turnaround points are portals. As you practice this, imagine that during the pause, you are not waiting to breathe again. Imagine you are stepping out of your body and expanding upwards. The longer you can comfortably inhabit the pause, the wider your vertical channel becomes. Protocol 3. Sensory defocusing. The holographic gaze. Horizontal time requires focal points. You look at the phone, then the wall, then the hand. Serial processing, linear. Vertical time is holographic. It is simultaneous. To shift axes, you must switch from focal vision to peripheral sensing. Look at the wall in front of you. Now, without moving your eyes, widen your awareness. See the corners of the room. See the floor. Hear the hum of the fridge. Feel the fabric on your skin. Perceive everything at once. When you force the brain to process the entire field simultaneously, it cannot process linear time. The processing load is too high for the ego's linear narrative. The internal dialogue stops. The narrator dies, and the observer wakes up. Notice the shift in your head, a lightness, a sudden clarity. You have just stepped off the treadmill. You are standing in the vertical now. Protocol 4. The 3 o'clock window. There is a physical reason the mystics wake up before dawn. Between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m., the solar radiation interfering with the ionosphere is at its lowest. The noise of the planetary consciousness, the collective anxiety of the horizontal world is asleep. The static clears. If you wake up at this time, do not roll over. This is not insomnia, it is an invitation. The vertical axis is wide open. Sit in the dark, listen to the silence. This is the easiest time to calibrate your frequency to the 0 point without the interference of the global mind.
The final secret is this. You do not need more time. You need true time.
When you begin to live on the vertical axis, even for just a few minutes a day, something fundamental changes in your biology. The frantic ticking of the internal clock quiets down. You stop racing toward death because you realize that death is merely a horizon line on the horizontal map, and you are no longer walking on the map, you are rising above it. Itzhak Bentov called this state the universal mind. I call it sovereignty. To be sovereign is to stand still in a world that is addicted to speed. It is to be the eye of the storm. While the masses are dragged forward by the currents of politics, trends, and manufactured outrage, aging rapidly from the friction of their own resistance, you remain untouched. You become a conduit for high-frequency consciousness that bypasses the decay of the physical world. Take a deep breath and let your shoulders drop. Feel that? That release is the weight of the past falling off. You have carried it for too long. The Matrix will try to pull you back. It will send you a text message, a sudden worry, a distraction. It will try to re-engage your linear programming. This is not an accident. It is a security protocol. The system fears the one who stops, because one person standing firmly in the vertical now generates more power than 1,000,000 people running on the horizontal treadmill. You now have the equation. You know that reality blinks. You know the escape hatch is hidden in the silence between your thoughts. The only question remaining is, will you use it, or will you let the pendulum swing you back into the sleep of linear time? The choice is not made tomorrow. It is not made in the future. It is made right now, in this breath, in this blink. Step off the line, climb the ladder, and never look back.